gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody in between.
He's a South Texan poppy poet living that hashtag middle-class gay life. It's Chibi.
She's a little bit Selena, a little bit J-Lo, and a whole lot of Pisces. It's Rocky.
And this is Words and Shit,
the show where you get to know the person behind the poetry.
Brought to you by Write Art Out
and Gemini's Productions.
Hi, friend.
Hola, Raquelita. What does me interrupt you right now?
No, I love it when my friends call me Raquelita. Audience, this is the first time Chibi has called me Raquelita, and it's really, I love it. Yes, it really brings me back to like a very childlike, like version of myself, and I love it. Yes,
it's interesting you mentioned that this is so coincidental, because like I've been thinking a lot about, like when you're a child, right, you're at home a lot, right, and what home means to you, and how home evolves and what reminds you of home. And in case our audience doesn't know, we are hundreds of miles apart. You are up in New York, I'm down in Texas, but you are a Jersey girl.
I am. I know that Chibi's like, Raquel always talks about New York, and I'm like, yes. But half of my life and where I'm from is a little place called Perth Amboy, New Jersey.
Raquel started on Jersey because she goes hard.
I go hard. And especially when I come back and like I'm with my cousins and family members, like I get those like mannerisms where I'm like, I'm going to the mall. Okay. The mall, and you better come correct or don't come at all. Okay.
No. So so when you're in Jersey, yes. Because you know me, and my mind always goes to food. When I was in Jersey, I immediately asked, like, what do I need to go eat? So like when you're in Jersey, what is the food that reminds you of home, right? Or when you're not in Jersey, what's something that you eat that reminds you of home, of Jersey?
Oh, I think it's like two things. There's the one that like really calls to me is this pizzeria place that's right next to my where I grew up, and it's called Mama Lena's, and it's been there for like 30 years. Maybe more, but they have these Italian subs. Okay. So if you're, people are like Jersey Sopranos, like, yes, true Italian subs with the capicola, the salami, with the, lettuce, tomato, salt and pepper, the works with oil and vinegar, and a little bit of mayo on a hero or a roll. Right. It just hits different. It really, really does. I don't know if you remember, but there needs to be a thing called Blimpies before Subway. Yeah. Blimpies walked so Subway and then Jersey Mike's could just run.
Well, I do remember that when I was visiting Jersey, you did send me to a sub place, and it was absolutely delicious. It was the right call.
Yes. And like you can get stuff, but it's just in Jersey specifically, we have like the Italian things, but at the same time, what recalls to me from my childhood is just being a mall rat and getting free samples at the mall. You heard it, right? See, now I'm talking about Jersey. It's like mall.
Yep. She's transitioned. She's no longer Puerto Rican and Salvadorian. She's Jersey.
Yeah, Jersey with my little hairspray and everything. Okay. How about you, friend? How do you feel about like food and home, and what does that remind you of?
Well, it's interesting because kind of similar to you, even though I'm Mexican, I'm kind of really Texan. I've lived here my whole life. I rep Texas wherever I go. Texas runs deep, and Texas is a very proud state. And so, I mean, the clear cut answer is barbecue, 100%. And I say that in both the Texas and the Mexican aspect, right? because there's so much love that goes into making something that takes a long time, right? So I'm thinking of both like smoked briskets and pork ribs, while also thinking of birria, tacos, and barbacoa, right? These kind of like meat dishes that require love, that require attention, that require cultivating, right? And you can taste it, and it always just brings me back to a place of comfort, of home, of feeling full, right? And I love all food, but like definitely these like slow cooked meat dishes that Texas and a lot of Mexico is known for. So I feel like I get to celebrate both parts of me whenever I do that.
Can I tell you that yesterday I was at a happy hour with some of my coworkers, and they were like, "Yeah, all the good barbecue in New York are gone." And I was like, They're like, "Raquel, where do you go for barbecue?" And I was like, "Texas."
Yeah. And food plays such a pivotal role in our lives, right? Especially because we need it to live.
Yes.
But B, because again, it's so specific, right? The food that you grow up eating, the food that you grow up cooking or learning how to cook, completely influences your life. And I loved getting into a conversation with food with Jane Wong, because it was like, me, I just love food, and geeking out over food was such a joy to experience with someone that loves it just as much as our guest.
And not only that, she's also from New Jersey. So we were just geeking out about us reliving our mall days and what that means. And Jamba Juice. I'm obsessed with Jamba Juice. Okay.
Oh my God. We could have talked for hours, but we didn't. But we're going to share the conversation that we did have with you right now. Jane Wong is the author of the debut memoir, Meet Me Tonight in Atlantic City. She also wrote 2 poetry collections, How Not to Be Afraid of Everything and Overpour. A Kundiman Fellow, she is the recipient of a Pushcart Prize and fellowship and residencies from the U.S. Fulbright Program, Harvard's Woodberry Poetry Room, Artist Trust, Hedgebrook, UCross, Loghaven, and others. She grew up in a takeout restaurant on the Jersey Shore and is an associate professor at Western Washington University. Here is our conversation with Jane Wong. Jane, welcome to Words and Shit.
Yay, I'm so excited to be here. I'm going to say hi by showing you this lion that makes this noise. Hold on.
Oh my God, how cute. I already love it. We're already starting off in a really cute, amazing way.
With an element of play. I love when we can just play as poets. People think poetry is so serious, but we're goofballs.
We're absolute goofballs. And I'm so excited to have you. Jane, you don't know this, but I was actually born and spent majority of half of my childhood in Jersey.
What?
Yes.
I love that, Rocky.
Yeah, so with Perth Amboy, so I'm definitely like on the going towards the shore, where I know that you were definitely a Jersey girl as well.
Very much so.
Super, super proud.
Some backstory for the listeners. This conversation is actually like a year and a half in the making. Back when we had Chen and Sam Herschel-Wine on the show, Chen recommended that we reach out to Jane. So we did. And she was like, yeah, let's do it. And then it was like, oh, we're pausing recordings. But so happy that it's finally happening. And so happy for that recommendation, because I definitely dove into your work and I'm a fan. So
Yes.
Kind. Oh, Sam and Chen. That makes me happy too.
Speaking of play.
Yeah, I know. Super, super play. Well, obviously, we want to get to know more about you and your words and your poetry. But how we like to introduce you to our listeners is kind of do a little quick check-in of how's your heart today, Jane? How's it doing?
Oh, I love that question. I'm going to answer that by telling you what I ate just now. I made some leftover fried rice, which is a great way to empty your fridge and fill your belly. So I'm feeling pretty good because, life has been kind of intense for me, I think, this year. And so being able to just like nourish myself is actually quite a gift. So I'm feeling good. And I also chopped up some perilla leaves, which my mom gave me a little baby plant from home, and I planted it. And so I put some of that in it. It was so delicious. I feel like I'm not supposed to like take plants on the plane, maybe, but I did. Okay. All right. I don't know.
Yeah.
You absolutely can. I don't even remember who told this story, but that they took an entire, like tomato plant on the plane with them. And it was like their baby. And like the flight attendant even like treated it like, how's your plant doing? Is it okay? Like
yes, that's Ross Gay.
Okay,
yes, tomato on board, Book of Delights. Yes.
Yes.
I love that. Yes.
Okay. Absolutely. Oh my God. I already know I'm gonna love this conversation.
Yes.
I'm a bit of a foodie, just a little bit, and I know that comes with like a bougie connotation, but it's not bougie at all. I just love food. And making food. So,
and those who have been blessed to have Chippies like cooking, it's like out of this world. So,
I need to come over your house.
Just learned how to make a bechamel, and I'm so proud of myself. It came out so good.
I'm lactose intolerant, but I'm gonna eat that.
It was my husband, but we have plenty of lactate in the house. So
that's all you need.
All right. So before we dive into the poetry and the meat of the conversation, oh my God, the food puns are coming, y'all.
Yes. So they're going to be so juicy.
Yes. We'd like to, start with a little amuse-bouche just to, to wet the palate with a segment that we call speed dating. So we're going to ask you a series of questions, just 4, and we encourage you to answer as concisely as possible. And then maybe later in the conversation, we'll dive into it. Okay?
Yes, I'm ready. I'm so ready.
Okay. So first question is, what is your favorite ghost/scary story?
My favorite is, and I believe in ghosts. So this is like, it's like real. I had this show, at the Fried Art Museum. It was like a little kind of like poetry installation. In part of the show, there were like pineapple cakes as part of an altar space. And the security guard at the museum told me that they had been stolen, and they couldn't figure out, like no one knew like who took them. There was no footage of it, but they were gone. And I was like, no, they weren't stolen. I know, right? It was a ghost. I mean, and I think it was my grandpa. I think it was my grandpa that came and just took them and ate them, and maybe the mice too. But that's my story with some rats.
Oh, this is so cute. Okay. I definitely believe in ghosts too. Yeah. Like yes, you have to. I don't trust anyone who doesn't. I'm like,
exactly.
My husband and I believe that we have a homophobic ghost in our house because just stuff happens and we're like, what? How? So we've staged the house a few times. It seems to have settled, but every once in a while it rears its head out.
I don't want that ghost.
No, you can keep that ghost. All right, Jane. So my first question is, since you are a Jersey girl, right? I want to know, in what ways are you a stereotypical Jersey girl?
Wow.
Way to call her out.
Listen, my cousins are like, they are the Jersey girls. So I want to know what your Jersey girl version looks like.
Okay, I love them all. I mean, look, I love them all, and yes. I loved also those like little like candy. I don't know, you pay 25 cents and you just get the candy. I know it's been there for probably 20 years, but I still like that candy. I don't know what it is. Runts? I don't know what it even is, like the type of candy. So I don't know. I feel like I love malls. And I feel like there's something about like walking on the boardwalk with the largest sunglasses you possibly have. Like,
Yes.
And I just was in Atlantic City and I bought this pair for like $5 and it's already crooked, because like it's like one giant like lens is bigger than the other. And so you're just kind of like a little like lopsided in that way. But that's it. Malls, sunglasses, big sunglasses on the boardwalk.
I think that definitely checks out. Like, people don't understand what a good mall day, like, and you don't spend any money. You just go to the mall because that's what you did and do. So,
I mean, you need some like hot pretzels sometimes.
yes.
I mean, Jamba Juice.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God. Wow. Like, I really feel all of this. I think we would have been really good friends if we were
I know. It would have been so fun. We would have linked arms and just stayed there for 12 hours.
Missed connections. Well, on the subject of pretzels and Jamba Juice, I promise you I ask everyone that comes on the show this question. This is just particularly pertinent. What is your favorite thing to eat? What's your favorite food dish?
Oh gosh, that's actually really difficult since like you, I love to eat. I think that it's so bad because it's like, speaking of stereotypical, I'm just like rice. Like I can't just like
we all love rice here. Okay.
I was trying to think of something else and I was like, no, I just had rice. So I'm also like, it's on my mind. But yeah, I mean, rice, I mean, in any form, I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Because it can take so many forms, right?
Exactly.
Let's all cook our rice very differently. I guarantee you.
Yeah. And I feel like there's something very like, healing about it. I feel like when I make like jok, like a rice soup, and it's just like, it's like chicken noodle soup. Like it's just so good. And it's actually like very few ingredients. I feel like rice is also like super, along with it being versatile. But, if you grew up like, working class, like that's the thing. It's rice.
Mm.
Love it. I love it. Yeah. I feel like rice and beans really held me down during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's universal. It's healing. It's amazing. All right. Speaking of just feeding our souls and just being happy like individuals, I noticed that you really love and mentioned the raccoon a lot in your website, on IG. Like, you describe yourself having a raccoon heart. There's a raccoon with like a little pizza on your website. I just want to know, why the raccoon? And like,
oh my God.
Yeah.
This is like, I'm trying to show you my camera, but
oh, for the people listening, there's a raccoon head.
Yes.
It's a head. To me, it looks like it's floating. I don't know what's happening.
It's a raccoon head. It actually does have a slice of pizza in its mouth. One of my amazing graduate students made me this paper mache raccoon. I don't know what, like, I feel like I've raccoon everything. I think I'm obsessed with a raccoon because I feel like it's a creature that, first of all, like survives and thrives like everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's an incredibly, I don't know, like smart creature. It will take what it needs and wants. Like, I love the videos where the like raccoons take cat food, it's just like, I'll take that. I think that they're also, like, I don't mess with them. I see all these videos of like raccoons that are like in people's houses and they have them as pets. And I was like, are you kidding me? That is like, they're wild creatures, like respect. I was like, respect the raccoon. They're not meant to be domesticated. I don't know. I just love their little human paws. I just think that they're incredibly also loyal creatures. Like, there's this, I watch a lot of nature documentaries, and, there's this one video, I think, of a raccoon mom, like, and the babies, like, coming like up a chimney, and it's just like they stick together. I love them. I love any creature that I think people oftentimes can't stand. Like I love, rats. I love cockroaches. I like slugs.
Oh,
I like, oh yeah, like any trash creature, like possums. Like I don't know. I'm attached. Like moths. People just don't. Are just like it's just a butterfly. I mean, anyway, I like the creatures that people tend not to like, I guess.
I love it. I also was like so interested. You know that there's like a raccoon islands like up like that you can go visit and just feed the raccoons and they just come up to you. Yeah. Like my friends are also obsessed with raccoons, so they like go out of their way to find like raccoon like I guess communal raccoons together and just
I am like both intrigued but also terrified. I'm just like I just can't. I mean, it would be a dream come true, but also a potential nightmare. I mean, I feel like I keep a distance. It's like I don't know, but I'm okay. I gotta check this out. That Raccoon Island. Okay.
I see the wheels turning in Jane's head, and Jane's like, "Well, this has been fun. I got somewhere to be. Island, bye." But no,
I'll jump on my like raccoon paper mache head like it was a fairy and just like make it to the island.
This is a poem. I feel it.
This is a poem. You're right.
Well, speaking of poems, you did great at speed dating. Can you kick us off with a poem?
Yes. Okay, let's see. What should I read? I think I'm going to read a poem from my second book, How to Not Be Afraid of Everything. And I think I'm going to read a poem. Speaking of creatures, there's a lot of creatures that show up, I think, throughout the book. And this one's called I Put on My Fur Coat. It's in my mother's voice. I tend to write in her voice often. And I grew up in a strip mall, and Burlington Coat Factory was on this strip mall. And my mom coveted this coat. And she kind of just like, she kind of like put aside like bills and like kind of like things she had to, pay, like for, but she was like, oh no, let's, even though maybe groceries were very, very thin that week, she got this coat. So I think it means a lot to her. It's called I Put on My Fur Coat. And here it is. I put on my fur coat and leave a bit of ankle to show. I take off my shoes and make myself comfortable. I defrost the chicken and chew on the bone. In public, I smile as wide as I can, and everyone shields their eyes from my light. At night, I knock down nests off telephone poles and feel no regret. I greet spiders rising from underneath the floorboards one by one. Hello, hello. Outside, the garden roars with ice. I want to shine as bright as a miner's cap in the dirt dark, to glimmer as if washed in fish scales. Instead, I become a balm and salve my daughter, my son, the cold mice in the garage. Instead, I take the garbage out at midnight. I move furniture away from the wall to find what we hide. I stand in the center of every room and ask, am I the only animal here?
I love it. I always love to see like all the poets' reactions when they hear the sound of clapping. It just brings me so much joy. First of all, I love when people write about their moms and have like a deep relationship with their moms. I also know that your mom is a celebrity in your like book tours, right? Yes. So it's so interesting to hear that you write a lot of your poems in her own voice. So why write in her voice and not through your own personal experiences?
I'm very obsessed with my mom, and everyone kind of knows that. She knows it. She's funny. She's like, why are you so obsessed with me? She's just like, she's a pretty magical person. And yeah, she's been on book tour with me this past June, I suppose, May, June. And she started to sign books, which is really sweet too, because it is kind of written by, I mean, if you think about it, it is written by her.
Yeah.
Which is so adorable. But of course, she's my mom. It's just like my parking is up. I can only sign one more. Just typical. But you know, it's so, I think, I don't know, revealing, I guess, to write in her voice, because I feel like when I write a persona poem in her voice, I find a lot more, I think, care and empathy, I think, for the both of us in some weird way. It's like when I write in her voice, it's half me, half her. It becomes this other entity. And at least in that poem too, it feels very much like that. I actually put on that coat in order to write that poem. So I was home when I wrote that poem and I put the coat on. And I tend to do these kind of like, I don't know, participatory type of poetics where I actually do the thing in order for the thing to happen. And when I became her, I could really understand the just kind of the boldness of her. I mean, she had me when she was 20. And so I just see her as this like, you know, young 20 something eating chicken, like, you know, just like wanting so badly, I think, to be, I don't know, her like fullest wild self, and, you know, date and go out to have dinner and have so much fun. But she, you know, she couldn't do that because of, you know, her responsibilities as a parent, but also she was arranged to my father to be married. And so she felt in many ways trapped, you know, by this life. And so I just imagined her desire, her longing so badly to have something hers, which is why she bought this coat. It was hers. You know, she wasn't having to do anything for anyone else. It was special to her to get this coat for herself, which now I was wearing. So, I mean, it's kind of like really revealing, I think, that I have that same desire. I have these same longings for, I don't know, like pure, I don't know, like selfishness is not necessarily a bad thing. You know, and people always demonize, I think, especially mothers who want for themselves. And I really wanted to write this poem in her voice to give her that, and give her that fullness of self, I guess, in her coat. So I love writing in my mom's voice, and she is funny. She's just like, oh yeah, that's how it was. I was like, I made it up, like, you know, and she's like, no, that's how it was. I was like, no, it wasn't. So, you know, in my first book, I wrote a lot in her voice. And there was this one poem where she's like kind of imagining like having oral sex. I mean, it's, you know, I think about my, you know, when you write in someone else's voice, you have to remember that there are multiple selves. And I needed to write about my mom's sexual self, even though, you know, she's not my mom in that poem. Like in any of the poems, she's not my mom per se. She's someone else. And so that was kind of amazing to kind of do. And she was like, yeah, you knew. And I was like, what? Okay.
She's just agreeing of like, yeah, that's exactly it. It's like living a second life almost.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing. You know, like your work is so prevalent with the influences, obviously, of, you know, like where you grew up, and the things around you that really have a meaningful impact in your life. And as we were talking about at the top of the show, food seems to be one of those as well, and ghosts, you know.
Yep. They're hungry too.
Yeah, I read your poem after preparing the altar, The Ghost Feasts Feverishly, and was just like floored, blown away, having a moment. Can you talk a little bit about like where these influences come from and how they infuse themselves into your work?
Yeah, thanks for those sweet words about that poem. I think that might be a poem that I actually co-wrote with my ghosts. So it's funny that you mentioned both ghosts and food, because I actually don't really have a clear memory of writing it, which is bizarre, but it's the only poem that I really do feel like came to me, if that makes sense. But yeah, I grew up in a restaurant. And so like, I think that growing up in a restaurant on the Jersey Shore, you know, I was surrounded by food. It was like the love language of everyone around me. My nickname was Bao Bao, which means like bun, but also baby bun. It's kind of like I was just had these giant cheeks. But I also, growing up in a restaurant, I didn't discover until way later in college, actually in a Chinese politics class, that my family was part of the Great Leap Forward, which is about 1958 to 1950. Oh my gosh, I'm getting my dates wrong. 1958 to 1962-ish. I mean, it's kind of right before the Cultural Revolution, in which, and the numbers change a lot because there isn't a lot of information about this time, since there was quite a bit of propaganda. 36 million people starved to death. And it's one of those moments where, you're in class and you realize that your homework is actually your lineage, your life. And it was horrifying. I actually left class. I couldn't return for a couple of weeks. And it made sense in thinking about my grandfather being orphaned, and his he didn't have his parents, his siblings. And my family talks about that time as, a time in which they disappeared. But I mean, I figured it out later. So many people lost so many family members if they survived, and so thinking about my grandfather surviving starvation, and then my mom growing up in poverty and hunger, in the very start of the Cultural Revolution, all the way to my generation, in which I'm like literally like being fed to a degree that I would even say like I almost felt like I was eating on behalf of other people, my ancestors, because a child should not eat that much. Like I was eating, and I have this like desire. Sometimes I can't throw away cilantro that clearly is rotting. Like I have to clean off the stems, and like I have to eat it. I cannot waste food. And I was wondering, it's like, I know parents teach you this, but it's more than just parents teaching you this. I really do feel this kind of like draw, like to keep eating. I don't, it's hard to explain sometimes, but I think the only way I can do it is through poetry. And I think that that's been probably the most like powerful tool, I guess, like communication tool, is like from the ghosts to my ear to my pen. And I feel like, food has always been central in this way. I just didn't, there's so many silence histories, in thinking about when we grow up, what's told, what's not told, what's told for our own safety. And silence is sometimes a means of safety for my family. They don't talk about it for obvious reasons. And so it was a risk for me to do it. I mean, I think that there's a lot of responsibility, I think, for, the next generation to hold a lot of this trauma and this pain. But I feel really proud to be able to do that. And it was a long journey. It definitely was not my first book. And so even though I did know of this then, it took me a long time to write about it, actually 15 years, in fact, to kind of really dig into it. Yeah.
I love that. I want to still stay on the topic of food because food is so prevalent in everything that you do. I think you even as instead of unboxing, you did a souping.
I did do a souping video.
Can you describe what a souping video looks like to our audience?
Please.
Oh my God. I had some comments I had some comments under the video that said like, no, not, please don't put the book in the soup. Don't destroy the book.
Jimmy's face.
Oh my gosh. Luckily though, the actual book didn't fit in the soup. It was too thick, the book, because it's prose and it couldn't get past the bowl. But yeah, my whole idea, I really wanted to like dip my book into the soup. Mm-hmm. Like a Chinese donut, and just like scoop it and eat it, but it didn't fit. And so I was like, oh dang. So I just like got a postcard that was like, in the book, and I dipped that, and then I kind of ate the soup from the postcard that had the book on it. But that was I really wanted to bring my book to a restaurant, one of my favorite restaurants in Chinatown, ID, which is Mike's Noodle House. That's where my family goes. And so it was so funny. I asked the folks there if they would bring out my book with the soup, and they're just like, no, like this is a restaurant. No, we're not going to do that. So that was the right answer though. It's like a legit Chinese place when they're just like, no, we won't do anything. Like, you asked us to do it. No, thanks. But yeah, I just, unboxing videos make me uncomfortable because for some reason, it almost feels like when they cut open the box, it's like you're supposed to have this face of like, whoa, what is this? And I'm like, well, you knew it was books. But I feel like I wanted to do something a little goofier, speaking of like, I guess, goofy poets, but that's kind of me. I'm definitely like goofy and I guess, very tender and vulnerable, but I feel very goofy all the time. So I tried it. I did a bowing video for my second book. I made bao and just ate bao. I mean, it's really hard to make bao from scratch. So that was a whole day endeavor.
Yeah, because I definitely know that you teach food writing.
I do.
Right? And what does that look like to teach food writing, especially in the United States? Sometimes people will think of like more American food, right?
Yeah.
And they kind of other like quote unquote ethnic food, like Mexican, Asian food. So how do you bring your own identity in teaching food writing and make it more diverse?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's all that you said. Like, I feel like that's really kind of my like desire as a teacher is to break down the idea of what even the term foodie is complicated, right? Because it suggests that, that it is, going to brunch and having, I don't know, like basically in my mind, just like, the idea of white American like breakfast, I suppose, where, I wanted to expand the idea of like, you can love food and you can, and kind of love it in a way that is, expansive in thinking about food justice and thinking about like, who are the families who are cooking for you, right? Like, and thinking about the ancestral roots of particular ingredients that, mean so much to you, while also still being a foodie, like still loving going out and sharing food with friends. I think that I really wanted to get that across. I had one of my students who's a Korean American adoptee, raised by white parents, tell me that when she first had sesame oil, she never had this ingredient before, but when she tasted it, she felt pulled back, like in a before she was born, like she didn't know. She was like, what is this taste? It was like in her body, and she was never raised on Korean food. And so, moments like that, it's really powerful in class. I think when you have food as that kind of sensory memory, even when that memory is not even formed, it's kind of wild, actually. And I think, even thinking about the writers that I teach and there's this, I think it's Audre Lorde's, it's from Zami, but it's a kind of little excerpt in thinking about spices. And she writes about kind of using the mortar and pestle and like the rhythm of using the mortar and pestle and the aroma, right? And just like how much of an honor it was to be the one who did that task, like was to almost unlock something, like moments like that. Like you can't, it's so personal, but it's also like makes us all feel so connected and human too. But I love teaching that class. I definitely I remember one time we had I think it was my student's idea, like to have a waffle challenge where we're all going to review recipes of waffles, actually. And they really wanted to do something on food reviewing or food writing in that way. And I was like, okay, let's do that too. And I definitely don't think I'm supposed to bring heat sources to school like that, but we definitely made some waffles in class, and that was really fun to be like, order up. And it's flying across the classroom.
Oh my God. I would sign up for that class. This is resonating so hard with me right now. I'm recently found my grandmother's recipes, all handwritten on index cards. And so I'm working on creating a cookbook. And I'm lucky enough to where, I can still have conversations with my grandmother. And so in talking about the recipes, I'm learning her history, right? And going back to what it was like to be 18 years old and freshly married in, the 1920s, or not, she's not that old, the 1930s in Mexico. Right. And so like, that really is such, it's archival work, but it's also, it's very ancestral, and it's very personal and poetic, like you were saying.
Mm.
And so now I want you to feed my soul with another poem, please.
Oh, I love that you're going to be doing that with your grandmother's recipes. That makes my heart feel so good. Like, and food is an archive. It really is. It's the through line to so much else. It's like the constellations start building around the recipes, the stories. What a gift. Yeah, I will read another poem. I was planning to read after preparing the altar, the ghost feast feverishly, if we have time, since I know it's a little bit of a chonker in terms of a poem, but it had to be long, I suppose. I'll read this poem. And as I mentioned, I feel like I wrote it with my ghosts. I was just writing these poems called When You Died. They're from a separate series in the book, writing to my ancestors who did not survive the Great Leap Forward. And I was writing them for like 2 years. And it was really hard to write some like letters to people where you feel like they can't respond to you. And so this kind of poured out of me at a coffee shop. I was actually grading, and like my ghosts were just like, stop grading, you must write this down. And so this is what came out. I didn't touch it other than the form, but it just happened in about 2 hours. So it's so bizarre. I will never experience that again. But after preparing the altar, the ghost feast feverishly, and it begins with a quote from Audre Lorde, which is, "How hard it is to sleep in the middle of a life." We wake in the middle of a life hungry. We smear durian along our mouths, sing soft death a lullaby, carcass breath, eras of licked fingers and the finest perfume. What is love if not rot? We wear the fruit's hull as a spiked crown, grinning in green armor. Death to the grub, fat in his milky shuffle. Death to the lawlessness of dirt. Death to mud and its false chocolate, to the bloated sun. We want a slice open and yolk all over the village. We want a sun-drenched slug feast, an omelet loosening its folds like hot jello. We want the marble fat of steak and all its swirling pink galaxies. We want the drool, the gnash, the pluck of each corn kernel, raw and summer swell, tears welling up oil. Order up pickled cucumbers piled like logs for a fire, like fat limbs we pepper and succulent in. Order up shrimp chips curling in a porcelain bowl like subway seats, peeled grapes from bitter bark, almost translucent like eyes we would rather see. Little girl, what do you leave leaven in your sight? Death to the open eyes of the dying here. There's so many open eyes we can't close each one. No, we did not say the seamed eye of a fish. No eyelids fluttering like no butterfly wings. No purple yam lips. We said eyes, still and resolute as a heartbreaker. Does this break your heart? Look, we don't want to be rude, but we want seconds, please. Want globes of oranges swelled whole like a basketball, or Mars, or whatever planet is the most delicious. Slather Saturn, ferment Mercury, lap up its film of dust. Seconds, thirds, fourths, meat wool, a bouquet of chicken feet, a garden of melons monstrous in their bulge. Prune back nothing, we purr in this garden. We comb through berries and come out so blue. Little girl, lasso tofu, the rope slicing its belly clean. Deep fry a cloud so it tastes like bitter gourd, or your father leaving the exhaust of his car charred. Serenade a snake and slither its tongue into yours and bite. Love, what is love if not knotted in garlic? Child, we move through graves like eels, delicious with our heads first, our mouths agape. Our teeth, little needles to stitch a factory of everything made in China. You ask, are you hungry? Hunger eats through the air like ozone. You ask, what does it mean to be rootless? Roots are good to use as toothpicks. How can you wake in the middle of a life? We shut and open our eyes like the sun shining on tossed pennies in a forgotten well. Bald, copper, blood. You, Choi, bolts into roses down here. While you were sleeping, we woke to the old leaves of your backyard shed, and then we ate that, and then we ate one of your lost flip-flops too. In a future life, we saw rats overtake a supermarket with so much milk we turned opaque. We waked to something boiling. We waked to watch dirt from lettuce to blossom into your face, aphids along the lashes. Little girl, don't forget to take care of the chickens squawking in their mess and stench. Did our mouths buckle at the sight of you devouring slice after slice of pizza in the greasy box too? Does this frontier swoon for you? It's time to wake up. Wake the tapeworm who loves his home. Wake the ants and let them do-si-do a spoonful of peanut butter. Tell us, little girl, are you hungry, awake, astonished enough?
That's amazing.
I remember reading that poem, thinking to myself, like, this poem must have been a beast to edit. And then to hear that it was just like a one go Jack Kerouac on the road scroll type of moment makes so much sense. Truly, truly artistic.
No, I'm really like obsessed with the fact that you keep saying I co-wrote this with my ghost. I'm just like, that's so brilliant. And yeah, of course.
Yeah, I did. I mean, there's no other way to explain it. It's kind of like Lorca's Duende. I felt like this power, like some other power come over me. It was hard. It's hard to explain. It'll maybe never happen to me again, but I felt it. And I have no memory of actually writing these words down, which is bizarre. And it's so funny because it needs to be a long poem. It's so funny whenever I read the poem out loud, but I literally salivate. And so it's like hard because I can't stop. And I'm just like literally sucking my like saliva down because it's kind of like eating. It's like they're desiring a feast. I mean, they answered my letters and said, basically, these aunties and, uncles were just like, shut up, and just let's have a party. They were just like, let's just eat. So I just think about that all the time and just, how ridiculous it is.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. It's really truly artistic and which again makes sense with what your breadth of work in terms of the crafts and the genres that you float in and out of. Essentially, you were talking about your memoir that you just released this year. You have your poetry. You do actual art installations. Can you talk a little bit? I'm sure you probably are an excellent dancer and play like 3 musical instruments also. Can you talk about that, like the floating in and out of different genres and how that influences your craft and your work?
Yeah, thank you for that. Oh my gosh. Well, I play the clarinet, so that's not cool.
The clarinet, it's totally cool.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, great. I feel great now. Yeah. So, I mean, back in the day, I played clarinet. I don't play it now, though I could probably pick it up. I just love making. I think I just have always been the type of person that thinks a lot about the medium or the form. So even thinking about, maybe that's why I love poetry, is that a poem can take so many forms. Like the emotional weight is tied so deeply to the form, so that, even looking on the page at that poem I just read, it's pretty packed in, but there are these like blank spaces. And I almost felt as if it was like these spaces in which those eels that are mentioned are kind of moving through, or there's this kind of like gluttony or like excess in terms of the amount of words there are, but that there are these empty spaces of hunger and like desire in that, hunger. And so I've been obsessed with like form, I think, as a poet. And then to be able to take that poem and turn it into a gigantic table, that the poem exists in bowls, and then you have to walk around the table to read the poem. And then the poem no longer has a beginning or ends. Like that was so special to me too. And so I think that, I guess, like when I think about form in different genres, it's just kind of like a constant retranslation like I'm a firm believer that you write the things that you're obsessed with. Like, I'm not interested in trying to like write about something new just because I feel like I've written about my mom. Maybe I should write about something else. No, I'm obsessed with her. I'm going to keep writing about her, but the form is going to change, like it's just a retranslation, like over and over and over, so that it feels kind of like kaleidoscopic. Like I'm able to see whatever I'm writing about in full light through different disciplines. And so, I'm doing ceramics now, and I think that's been really good to kind of like touch like something physically and make out of a ball of clay, whatever it is. I'm just like pulling from my table, but like I just made this tomato. Like, oh, thank you. And I don't make kind of useful forms. I realize they all have to be hollow. But I don't really make useful things. I mean, this was my lychee, but it kind of got kind of weird. But anyway, so yeah, I feel like I've just like making and seeing where it goes. And so I feel like even the memoir itself, I think really pushes back on, I guess, like tropes within the genre of what a memoir is supposed to be. Meaning, I think oftentimes memoir, we think of it as something that happened in the past, memory, memoir. And that book, I really wanted to have a present and a future. And so I made up a character in that book who kind of lives in the future space. Her name is wongmom.com. She lives in the internet. It's my mom that lives in the internet. And so stuff like that happens. I guess I'm just kind of a weirdo that just likes to play ultimately play with rigor. I feel like I like to play, but I like to play with craft. Like I think that's ultimately it, because once you have the tools, you're just like, ooh, once you figure out how, a slant rhyme works, you're just like, oh, I could keep doing this forever. It's so fun. So yeah, I love it. I think I'll always do that. I think I'm moving towards a novel next. I feel kind of just perpetually, I love challenges, I think, and to try things out. But at the central core of things, it's always poetry. I want to say that. I feel like there's something about poetry that is the most freest form for me. It's the most bewildering form for me. It will always touch everything else I do, but it is the central core. And that's why I'm so excited to be talking about poetry today.
Yes. Well, I know that we were so excited to have you here and really share your memoir, a little bit of snips of your memoir, but mostly about your poetry. And we can go, I've been having a fantastic time talking to you, really, just like talking about food or just even home in New Jersey too. It's really been beautiful. And since we're talking about, your future self and these future characters and poetry, I would kind of like to conclude this by asking you, what would be the title of the poem for the next chapter of your life?
Ooh, that is really wonderful. I feel like as someone who's about to, my birthday's in October. I'm very much a Libra. I'm turning 39, so it's the last year of my 30s as I head into this new decade. So this question is also like, ooh, ooh, what's the next decade gonna bring? I think the title might be, I'm gonna call it Soft Things. I need a lot more softness in my life. And I think that's where the next chapter is heading. The next poem, I'm just moving towards softness. I have also been working with my mom's seeds. And, as much as I love, food comes from a garden oftentimes. And so I feel like she's a seed saver. And so I've been making paper as well with her seeds and some of my first drafts. And that's been cool to actually make the paper to write on and then maybe plant it. So I've been doing that. And that's quite soft to me too. It's soft and slow. It's like, that's my next chapter.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I will read that poem 100%.
Thanks. Now I have to write it. I feel like you both gave me homework, and I am a recovering perfectionist. So I have to do this. I'm still an A+ kid.
Oh,
Okay.
it seems to be for your betterment, honestly.
Yes. We'll send you like raccoon stickers once you complete it.
Oh my gosh! I'm sorry. I started to do this. I didn't mean to do that. Oh, I'm really excited now.
This has been such a great conversation. So much play, so much ancestral, so much archival. So my heart is full. I want to go feed my belly now, even though I just ate. Thank
More
you.
bechamel sauce.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here, Jane. If people want to find you and your work, if you want to be found, where can they do that?
If you want to be found, I love that. It's my handle on Instagram is @paradeofcats. It has nothing to do with my name or anything, or anything really. It's at Parade of Cats. And my memoir is out now from Tin House. It's called Meet Me Tonight in Atlantic City. So there's a Bruce Springsteen reference right there. Speaking of Jersey. And it's coming out in paperback in April as well. And yeah, my poems are in these 2 books here, How to Not Be Afraid of Everything and Overpour. Yeah, and I do ceramics. You can find me also at Restaurant Baby Ceramics.
Yay! Love it.
Everyone, to all our listeners, if you aren't already, go find Jane in the internets, buy these books at independent bookstores, at local bookstores. Support the artist. Thanks so much, Jane. This has been a pleasure.
Oh my God. It's been such a joy. I could hang out with you both forever.
Yeah, same here. Next time we'll have a mall date. And we'll go
Let's go to the mall. I'll see you at the Jamba Juice.
Yes.
All right. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Oh man, that was amazing. Really amazing. I think the young Jersey girl in my heart, I know I don't talk about her enough, but Jane really makes me want to claim her even more so. And so this was just absolutely gorgeous. This whole delicious, yummy, satisfying, filling, as we could say. We can keep going on with all the food puns, but the fact that it's just something about food and bringing back our identity and ancestors, it is so special and magical, and should be definitely handled with care. And I think Jane does that throughout her writing, and even in this interview, she handles it with care and so much love. And that's how you should be fed in all these multitudes.
Absolutely. I didn't learn to cook until recently, after I started dating my husband. And for me now, it's this moment of communion almost when I'm in the kitchen, right? This moment of Zen where everything else doesn't matter right now. The only thing that matters is that I don't burn this sauce, right? And you're so intensely focused on creating this magical thing that then you get to share with people, right? And again, creates this idea of community and communion. And then now I'm going to go write a whole bunch of food poems. I'm so inspired, right? Expired. I'm
inspired. Yeah. But before you do, I think we have some listeners to thank.
Yes, let's thank some people so that we can go feed our bellies. Thank you so much to the listeners. As always, we wouldn't be here without you. Words and Shit was made for poetry lovers like you out there, and we want to thank you for supporting us and these beautifully spoken words. So thank you for being here.
And then shout out to Chris Conde. They definitely have been bringing us, uplifting us with their theme music. If you hear Jam Out, that's them. Please, please, please give them all their flowers, because we will.
Thank you also to Write Art Out and the City of San Antonio Department of Arts and Culture, whose support has helped us produce this podcast.
Yeah, and don't forget, if you are not following us on IG, what are you doing? I know you're missing so much, but please follow us on IG and Twitter. We will refuse to say X. It's just Twitter forever, ever, at Words and Shh. And you can definitely slide into our DMs. We will definitely interact with you. We love interacting with people. And let us know, who do you think we should bring on next?
Mm-hmm. And if you're just joining us for the first time, or if you want to go back, you can always watch and listen to past episodes on our YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, and lastly, do not forget to like, subscribe, rate, and review us. We appreciate it so much. We want to see all those hearts. So please go and like us.
This has been a Gemini's Productions podcast. Until next time, people, stay safe out there.
Adios. Bye.